Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin as we always do, making our headlines today on civiccentertv.com. On our local news page, our top story comes from Hannah McKay at the Detroit News. At a press conference on Tuesday, the parents of students killed in the November 2021 Oxford High School shooting spoke out against the recent decision by Judge Mary Ellen Brennan that ordered that the Oxford Community Schools and its employees were not liable for the shooting under the umbrella of government immunity. Said Buck Meir, father of Tate Meir, one of the 4 students killed in the shooting, quote, "To this day, we have had nothing done. We've had no investigation, no explanation, no accountability, nothing," end closed quote. For reference, a third-party investigation by Guidepost is ongoing, so there is investigation into this. However, those details are not trickling out from the school district or from its third-party investigator. These are from what the community has learned through public cases in the courts or what's been released by the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. The court's decision affirmed the arguments of the Oxford Community Schools attorney Timothy Mullins, who claimed that the most immediate cause of the deaths that occurred in November of 2021 at Oxford High School were that of the then 15-year-old shooter, and not by the decisions made by district employees and officials that may or may not have contributed to the events on that day. This is a key point, really important point from this article. It's being made in a direct quote. I'll read it straight from this article. Quote, "Government employees in Michigan, including public school employees, are not liable for injuries or damages as long as their conduct does not amount to gross negligence, that is, the proximate cause of the injury or damage," end close quote. That's according to the State Government Tort Liability Act. This, continuing on in this article, quote, "The proximate cause," end close quote, means the most immediate cause of injury or damage according to legal precedent. So if that Oxford High School shooting had occurred at a private school, the government immunity defense would not be relevant, and the victims' families would likely have already moved forward with their lawsuit or lawsuits, accusing school employees of gross negligence in those cases, says Chris Desmond, the chief appellate lawyer at Johnson Law, end close quote. That all directly from this article that's linked on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page from the Detroit News. So this is all ongoing as a judge also began deliberations into the liability of the shooter's parents, James and Jennifer Crumbly, as detailed in this next article on our website from Teresa Baldas at the Detroit Free Press. Michigan Appeals Court Judge Christopher Yates exclaimed to the Crumblys, quote, "There were warning signs all over the place. At the end of the day, aren't we looking at foreseeability more than anything else?" End closed quote. The point of this proceeding was to determine if they should stand trial for involuntary manslaughter, an unprecedented step that would make these parents the first set of parents of a shooter charged in a mass shooting case in the United States. The hearing spanned 1 hour on Tuesday with the focus on the question of whether or not James and Jennifer Crumbly neglected their son's emotional and mental distress and provided him then with the means to conduct mass violence that led to the death of 4 of his peers and the injury of several others, as well as a teacher. Foreseeability is the key word in all this, and it was the key word in all this, as we heard just a moment ago in the quote from the judge himself. Did they know that their son was in trouble? Did they ignore the signs that their son may have been in trouble? And then did they go beyond that to then give their son access to a firearm despite knowledge of his distress? The prosecutor's office argued that they did exactly that, and their inaction led to their son turning violent on his school. Assistant prosecutor Joseph Shada expressed that James Crumbly told his son to, quote, "take some pills and suck it up," end closed quote, and argued that the Crumblys, quote, "instead of getting him help, they bought him a gun," end closed quote. However, the defense says the parents were not at fault, as they did not plot the shooting, nor did they point and shoot the gun themselves, and they had no knowledge of their son's planning to shoot and kill people at his school, according to their arguments. The defense, as well as the judge, did also stress how this case may impact precedents in future cases of this kind. Are parents liable for their kids' actions, especially their violent actions at their school? Should parents also be held liable in the future for school shootings if their son, if their daughter, their other kids have conducted them. The judge argued that their decision is keen to set the precedence, with the defense arguing that this kind of case does not warrant setting such standards. So this is really becoming a multifactorial case because on the surface level, on the most basic level, it's determining whether or not James and Jennifer Crumbley should be held liable and should be able to stand trial for involuntary manslaughter, among other charges, in relation to their son, then 15 years old, now 16 years old, who had conducted the shooting and killed 4 of his classmates and injured several others and put them and a teacher in the hospital in November of 2021. How much did the Crumbleys know? How much did the Crumbleys know and then ignore? How much did the Crumbleys know and ignore and then decide, and then how much did that factor in, if any, to them buying a gun that their son would have access to? Was this gun bought specifically for their son to use quite freely? It was obviously not properly stored away on the day of the shooting if their son was able to get access to it, stow it in his backpack, go to his school, and kill 4 of his classmates. That's pretty obvious. That's pretty cut and dry. Whether or not that was the direct wrongdoing of James and Jennifer Crumbley is what this is all about. And I'm not an attorney. I have never practiced law, so I cannot give really any sort of legal opinion on this, but that's just the surface level of what they're looking for. How much of the action or inaction of James and Jennifer Crumbley ultimately led to the injury of several kids and a teacher at Oxford High School, as well as the death of 4 students in this situation. How much of an impact did the Crumbleys have? And if they had a significant impact because of neglect, does that warrant them being held liable for the actions of their son? Because from what we've heard so far, from what the defense is arguing too, they weren't privy to the planning. They certainly weren't directly helping their son to plot this, as far as we know at this moment in time. And I'm not going to speculate that they did. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But if there's any evidence that they were, by their inaction, responsible for their son ultimately turning to the point that he was at in his distress when he did go to his school and he did point their gun, the gun they purchased and allowed him to use at his classmates, that's what this is all about. And it's also about the precedents being set in this because, as we mentioned, this would be the first time in the U.S. that the parents of a mass shooter would be held liable in these cases. We've seen in the past where the guns had not been properly stored in their parents' house, and or it had been a gun that was possessed by parents, and this has not been an action that was taken. But the prosecutor's office, very quickly after the shooting, within a week, ultimately had said, we are going after the parents. The parents, we believe, should be held liable because they were made aware of some of the concerning things that their son was expressing in school, whether it be the drawing of guns and looking at, not the drawing of guns, the researching of guns and ammunition in his classroom that was brought up by his teacher and later by administration, the long meeting they had in the office with Oxford High School staff before ultimately the parents refusing to take their child home, and then the school officials deciding that this teenager at the time was fit to return to class. How much of all of that ultimately shows that the Crumbleys may have been negligent in this case. If that is the case, this will go on, but could this be something else it could also be dropped, as this defense makes the case that the Crumbleys did not participate in the planning or the execution of this plan by their son, and therefore it's not their responsibility. Yet to be a decision, those deliberations just beginning on Tuesday of this week, but it's all playing a factor into this case. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Mark Torregrossa at MLive. And before you get too worried, don't worry, please. It's not bad news this time. I know almost every time we reference an article from Mark Torregrossa at MLive, it seems to be some massive storm coming in or some horrible weather is on its way. Not the case this time. It's not great, but it's not bad news necessarily either. You can expect our local temperatures to take a bit of a dive going forward, but with the lower temperatures also comes an increase in sunshine. So those lower temperatures maybe not going to have as severe of an effect as they would normally. in the winter. The 6 to 10 day forecast for around the March 12th to 16th area is looking like it will begin to get much cooler in the air. So outdoors will be a bit chillier and then has been for the majority of the winter sans cases over the last few weeks. The good news, the sun will also be shining, and that may help to split the difference. No major precipitation is expected in this system at this time. So for once, we may actually stay kind of dry, despite the weather being a little bit more wintry than it has been of late. That's a nice change of pace. Said Torah Grossa, quote, "We could have a sunny day with temperatures in the 30s, but your face will say it's 50 degrees," and closed quote. That's because the sun will be shining. It won't be necessarily as overcast or cloudy as it's been per this forecast from Mark Torregrossa and the team at MLive. So more sunshine. The warmth from the sunshine will help to offset some of the cool base temperatures in our local area. So while it will be cooler outside, it will feel a lot more temperate than it would in most cases if we had our usual very gray, very cloudy, very overcast winter weather. So some good news to finish things off today in our news and headlines segment. Go explore all of those headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com. Just click on our local news page, and we'll have our updated articles there each and every day. We post them before we go live at 10 a.m. for our regular show, and we keep those articles up there for the entire week so that whether you're watching us for the first time this week today, or you've been following along each and every episode live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, or live to tape or on demand on our website at civiccentertv.com. No matter what, you're able to go to our local news page and reference all those articles that we're talking about. Go and click through to them, read them, the supporting materials, get all the details you need in order to stay informed on these different stories that are making an impact right here in Oakland County, as well as all throughout the state of Michigan. CivicCenterTV.com, just click on our local news link. In addition to that, at the top of the page, we have links to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division's COVID-19 web pages, as well as information about other public health needs and emergencies and info that you need to know to keep yourself and your family informed here in our local area. We have a great show ahead on today's edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Robert Boyle, who will tell us about how that mattress or bed of yours that you may be ready to move on from may help your neighbors in need. Stay tuned. This is the Megacast.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road. It's that time of year, Greater West Bloomfield. Our towns gather together this March for the 5th annual State of the Communities. Important figures from Sylvan Lake, West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, and Kego Harbor discuss the past year's projects and developments. Hear presentations from speakers, discussions on plans of action, and more. The 5th annual State of the Communities, March 13th at 7 p.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes State, including our co-flagship at My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and individual segments on demand as well. All of that is on civiccentertv.com/megacast. And I really highly encourage you to go to that page. Whether you're watching us on demand or you're tuning in live and you're going to miss part of the show because it's your work day, you're out with the kids, you're out at work, you have other things to do in the community and may not necessarily be able to join us right here in the heart of the morning at 10 a.m. To 11 a.m. for our live shows or live to tape on other networks throughout our partnership here in Oakland County. But whether or not you're able to do that and you're coming to our Megacast page to watch us on demand or to catch up with us later on, we appreciate you joining us. But it's also a great resource for no matter where you're at here in Oakland County, because there's a link to a number of different television, radio, and streaming outlets that are serving your community right now that you can learn more about what's happening in your community. We have a link to the Media Network of Waterford that joins us on our program, and they have great programming out in the community, exploring local events and talking to local people as well about what's going on in the Waterford area and parts of the Lakes area that are just outside of our flagship's purview here in the greater West Bloomfield community. Same thing in northern Oakland County with Orion Neighborhood Television or on TV. I was at Lake Orion High School yesterday and saw some of their broadcast team there for some of the MHSAA girls playoff basketball games. They do amazing work there in Lake Orion to keep you updated on your community in northern Oakland County and so many others. I mean, our radio partners at 88.1 The Biff out of Bloomfield Hills High School, they're doing great work there, and that's all student work too. There are some adults that are on the radio staff, their station manager, and others that do programming on the weekends, but by and large, everything that they're doing at the Biff is done by students, and they do great work. They called a game earlier on this week between West Bloomfield High School and Bloomfield Hills High School in their boys basketball tournament that they're also hosting there in partnership with the MHSAA. And these are all resources that are available to you for free right here in your community. They're through your cable provider. If you still are subscribed to cable, of course, we thank you, because those franchise fees that are coming through help to keep operations like us alive here at Civic Center TV, but they're also available online, these resources too. So no matter if you are a cable subscriber in your community, you still have access to all this community information, whether it be municipal meetings or news on local events or what's coming up in your community that you can mark your calendar for, ways you can get involved, and other fun and interest throughout our many different Oakland County communities. We have so many partnerships in all different regions of the county, and you can explore those through these different outlets by going to our Megacast page, civiccentertv.com/megacast, and clicking on any of those links. It will take you to their web pages. You can explore their catalog of programming, learn more about what's coming up on those stations as well. And of course, you can always tune into the Megacast live and live to tape throughout our network, no matter where you're at in Oakland County. civiccentertv.com/megacast is the place to go for all of that information. And in addition, if you're not able to join us, as I said earlier, if you're not able to join us for our live shows, Monday through Friday, weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., you're always able to find our full episodes right there on our website. We usually have them posted by about 1 p.m. in the afternoon to civiccentertv.com. That's all through our Megacast page. You can click on watch full episodes if you want to enjoy us like a podcast in your afternoon when you're trying to keep yourself engaged and interested in your work day and find something to listen to in the background that you can learn more about your community and that you can dive into some of these topics that are in the news in a little bit more detail. That's a great place to go. It's to our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Click on that watch full episodes link, and you'll see a full catalog of our episodes. You can watch us for the entire week on Friday, or you can watch us day by day and listen to us in the background like a podcast too. That's why we're TV, we're radio, we're streaming, and you're able to listen to us on a variety of different outlets or individual segments too. Maybe you're more interested in what's going on in Michigan politics. We'll have Dave Dulio on today's program here in just a little bit and talk about all the latest news and information regarding U.S. politics, how that impacts the state of Michigan, as well as Michigan politics, and how that impacts you right here in Oakland County. Or you want to learn about what's going on in the markets with the way our economy is going on. Fridays, we're always joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University. If you're really interested in a variety of different mental health topics, every Thursday morning, we have a conversation with Carrie Kraywick from the Birmingham Maple Clinic. And so all of these are available on demand to you anytime on our website, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Let's move on. We've been making them wait for just a few minutes, and now we're going to get to our first interview today. Joining us now on the program is Robert Boyle from the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan, where they're doing amazing work to help people in need in our community, and their needs are ones that maybe we're not always thinking about, as we're taking for granted our ability to go home at the end of the day and take a breather on the couch and watch some shows, or just simply go home and into a comfortable bed. That's not the case for everybody, even right here in Oakland County. So Robert, thank you for joining us to tell us more.
Tyler, great to be with you. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on, because this is an issue that is never ending. It's unfortunate in our society, but these individuals and these families are in need of some help and assistance from organizations like yours and those in the community to provide some of these necessities. So in Southeastern Michigan, how much of an issue really is it, or how great of an issue really is it for in terms of having families not have the furniture, those beds, and so on in particular, that they need to live a normal and comfortable and well-rested life on a day-to-day basis?
Well, Tyler, when folks think of basic needs, generally they think of food, clothing, and shelter. But if you don't have a bed to sleep in every night, as you alluded to just a moment ago, or if you don't have a table around which you can gather for a meal with your family, or furniture to just sit on with your children, watch a little television, you're not living with the stability and dignity that most of us take for granted. Last year, the Furniture Bank helped 2,300 families, or almost 7,000 folks in total, and we distributed about 18,500 items valued at over $1 million. And that's about a 20% increase from the previous year, 2021. So it's a huge problem. I mean, 90% of the families that we have referred to us have household incomes of $20,000 or less. On average, there are 3 people in a household. So if you've got a single parent and 2 kiddos, that's not a lot to go on. So while you're trying to make your rent and pay for your groceries and meet with your utility and travel expenses, affording furniture is just really a challenge for a lot of people. And that's why we're here.
And in the times that we're in now, with the way the economy has been over the last several years, with the storms that we've had pass through over the last several years that have done extensive damage to homes of various kinds and all throughout our local area and across southeastern Michigan, how great of a problem has this continued to be? Has it been a growing problem in recent years?
Well, coming out of the floods, I think we distributed about 150 beds just to flood victims. And most of those folks were in Dearborn, but also right here in Oakland County and Macomb as well. Those who are most vulnerable, families of limited means, they are at much greater risk. When crisis hits, they generally don't have renter's insurance. Oftentimes they lose everything. If they're getting evicted and in times of high inflation that we're seeing right now, that's unfortunately far too common. And it's not as though the people have the means to get a U-Haul or a truck or a call on Mayflower to help them move, and so they lose everything. And that's one of the reasons why we're here. We want, folks looking to rebuild their lives to have a resource and to be able to get, adequate rest at night, the rest that you and I take for granted. So, their kids can succeed in school, so they can hold down a job and hopefully establish a career that's going to serve them and their families well. And we just are here to help give folks an opportunity to do that.
And we know that in these times that can be a little bit more of a need than it may have been in the past, and it can be tough for people to maintain some of those necessities in their home, or replace some of those necessities in their home when various forms of damage or wear and tear happen to them. And so how are these individuals, or how are these families ultimately getting in contact with an organization like yours? If people, as we know, are out in our communities and are struggling in this regard, how can they best get in contact with you and maybe tap into some of these resources that you can provide them to alleviate some of these issues?
So our main program, our Furniture for Families program, is works in conjunction with about 75 health and human service referral partners. And so they're trying to get them into affordable housing, or perhaps get them job training, or they may be working with child protective services. They will refer them over to us, and we can help get them the basics, the things that they're going to need to, hopefully live with, stability and dignity. We also, here at the Furniture Bank in Pontiac, have a free community area. We're always putting furniture out that people can take right here in Pontiac and surrounding us at no cost whatsoever. It just depends on the day and what items we're putting out. But, I think last year we put about 1,200 items out, valued at well over $1 million for not quite $1 million, but probably about $250,000, excuse me, for folks to take at no charge. So there's really a couple of ways. And if they have any questions, they can call us at 248-332-1300 or visit us at furniture-bank.org.
And on average, you bring in about 1,450 pieces of furniture each month, Robert. And at this time, what are some of the greatest needs for your organization to meet the needs of those that you're helping in our communities?
Mattresses, box springs, beds, those are always the highest demand item. Dressers are always in great need. I think we have a need for dining tables. But more than anything, if you have a mattress and a box spring or a box spring that are in good shape, we absolutely need them. I think last year we gave out almost 2,000 mattresses through our Furniture for Families program, and this year I anticipate we'll probably beat that. And if folks have furniture to donate, they can call us again at 248-332-1300 or visit our website, furniture-bank.org. It might not look like it, but spring is a little less than a month away. And that's usually our busy season and the time that, folks are going out to the store to get new furniture for their home. They're blessed that they can do that. So if you're able to pass that blessing along and take the items that you no longer need, if they're in good repair, there's a local family here in Southeast Michigan that could absolutely use it. So call us at 248-332-1300 or visit furniture-bank.org.
And if people are considering moving on from some of their furniture, from their beds, their mattresses, their box springs, and other items as well, what are those considerations that they should be making for those items as they're exploring ways to move them out of their home and potentially to donate them? What is that standard they should be looking out for to determine whether or not this is something that can be donated, or this is something that they should dispose of in another method?
We like to use the term gently used. For just about anything, we're not able to accept it if it's stained, torn, structurally damaged, has pet damage. A lot of times, cats will think that a sofa is a scratching post, and dogs like to spend a lot of time with their people on a couch if they're allowed to do so. So we've had people come through with pet allergies. So we just want to make sure that the items that we are providing out are in good repair, are something that somebody could put in their home and feel good about. Because again, these are folks of limited means. Many of them have been in homeless shelters or have lived for a time without furniture. And we want them to feel good about the furniture they receive so they can feel good about their home and ultimately good about themselves. So gently used is definitely the standard. We also have furniture removal services for items that maybe the dog or cat did take a little too far or beat up on a little bit too much. And it's one of the ways that, we support our mission. We take out heavy items from people, so it saves them a bad back or bump moldings. And, it helps us do what we do and help about 7,000 people a year.
More information can be found on their website, furniture-bank.org, furniture-bank.org, or call them 248-332-1300, 248-332-1300 for more information and ways that you can get involved and donate some of your furniture to families in need right here in our community and in our local area. Robert, before we let you go, just to get a scope on the impact that this has. You interact with these individuals, with these families all the time as they're receiving this furniture. Just how big of a change is this in their life? How much does this impact someone when you donate your furniture and it goes through the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan and ultimately to that individual or that family on the other side that's in some cases desperate need of these items?
Well, I've heard so many anecdotal stories of kids sleeping on floors because they don't have a bed to sleep in. A lot of people, they'll they'll be in a homeless shelter, and they will be very, very excited because they found affordable housing. And once they get into their home, they're really unpleasantly surprised that they don't have furniture in it. And they actually, in many instances, find that they were more comfortable in the shelter where they at least had a warm bed to lay their head every night. So, the impact on families is absolutely tremendous. We actually did a little study with Michigan State University a few years back, and there were health impacts of people who had to sleep on the floor, emotional, mental health implications to not having an adequately furnished home. People are ashamed to invite somebody into their home. I'll never forget, there was a gentleman who it was right around Thanksgiving, and he told me just how proud he was and how happy he was to be able to invite his family into his home for Thanksgiving. And again, this is somebody who now is feeling good about his home and hopefully feeling better about himself, and will get on to bigger and better things, which is what we want to see our clients do.
More information can be found on furniture-bank.org. Robert, thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure, Tyler. Thanks so much.
Furniture-bank.org. Furniture-bank.org is the website. They do amazing work, and it's really important, especially as we think about this time of the year. We think about people that maybe are out on the streets, that are homeless, that don't have a warm bed to sleep in. But also there are people that are living in apartments or living in homes and are not necessarily homeless, but don't have furniture that we may take for granted as something that that doesn't just automatically show up in our homes. It's not very often, especially these days, that apartments would be furnished, or that homes you're renting or even buying would come furnished as well. And so for a lot of these families, they're able to get into homes, but they still can't afford to end up getting reliable and safe and good furniture for themselves and for their kids. And so oftentimes they're sleeping on the ground, or they're doing, kids are doing their homework on the ground. They're not in front of a desk. They're not able to sit in a chair and really do their homework, and that affects them in school. If you're not able to do your homework properly, it's going to affect the quality of that work. If you're not getting a good night's sleep and a comfortable night's sleep, that's obviously going to affect your ability to work. Or in these cases, they're going to have to choose between reliable transportation and furniture for their family. So organizations like the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan, they're doing amazing work to help these individuals and help these families acquire some of these necessities. And you're really helping with that as well. If you're donating your newer or gently used furniture that maybe you're moving, you're downsizing, you can't take all this furniture with you, but you've got a couch, or you've got a spare bed, or even a spare bed frame that you can donate. That goes a long way in our communities to help our neighbors, because it's not just some of the poorer areas of Michigan where this is a problem. Same thing with homelessness, same thing with food insecurity. These are problems that span across various walks of life, across various areas of Michigan and the U.S., and it's organizations like the Furniture Bank, and it's generous people like you that help to contribute to helping our neighbors right here in Oakland County and our surrounding areas who are in need of some of these great necessities. So really appreciate Robert joining us as he's done many times before, to talk about all the great work that they're doing, as well as the ways that you can help, whether it's donating your furniture or donating funds to the organization in order to do all the great work that they're doing to support our families and our individuals in need right here in Oakland County. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, Michigan's right-to-work law is up for grabs in the U.S. House right now. Could it be repealed by House Democrats in the coming days? In addition to that, we'll talk about issues that have come up lately with lawmakers and political action committees contributing to their campaigns from our utilities. How might that impact their ability to check and balance these companies that have control over your power? Plus, all eyes on 2024, how Oakland County was flipped from being historically red to blue, and how that could play a role in the outcome of the 2024 election. Stay tuned. Dave Dulio from Oakland University joins us to discuss that and more next on the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program and stay up to date with us on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find all of our full shows and each individual segment on demand, and learn more about each and every one of our partnering stations all across Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan. Well, every single day we are impacted by the work of our Michigan legislature, our governor, and those outside of the state of Michigan that have an impact on the Great Lakes state in politics. And joining us as always to talk about what is the latest going on in politics here in Michigan and beyond is Dave Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as the director for their Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, Tyler, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you as well. And it's always an interesting time in our politics, but all eyes seem to be on 2024, and every single topic, it ultimately dates back to, well, how is that going to ultimately impact us in 2024? But let's take a step back, because Oakland County is a really interesting area. of the state of Michigan politically. It's historically been a very red area, very Republican area of Michigan, but in the last several elections, it's been taking a shift to the blue, and it's been pretty impactful across the state as we've gone from having a very conservative executive in L. Brooks Patterson for a number of years to now a Democrat in Dave Coulter and Democratic leadership in the county commission and of course in the state house, Senate, and in the governor's race. So just how much of an impact is Oakland County really going to have in Michigan in 2024 as it's had in the past couple elections?
Well, Oakland County is poised to be a critical part of elections and policy making in Michigan in 2024 and beyond. I mean, it's a and I say that for a number of reasons. One, it's a vote-rich area of the state. It is also an area where there are a number of persuadable voters. I think Oakland County, as you've said, is seen a bit of a transition in its transformation from a very reliable Republican county to one that is now Democratic, right? In terms of elected officials, all the countywides are Democratic except for the sheriff. But I think that hides some competitiveness, right? I think it would be unwise for Democrats to assume that it's a dark blue, very progressive county now. I don't think that's true. We've seen Oakland County shift over the last 20 years or so. Demographically, it is much more diverse in all sorts of ways than it used to be. And that certainly brings more Democratic votes. But there are still a lot of Republicans here. There are, for example, there are many folks in Oakland County who in 2016 voted for Donald Trump. They thought they would give it a try. They thought they would see what he brought to the table. And then in 2018, 2020, and in 2022, Trump and other Republicans lost those voters, right? However, in 2020, when John James ran and was on the ticket with Trump, John James, of course, Republican Senate candidate at the time, running against Gary Peters, right? He got more votes in Oakland County than Donald Trump did, raw votes. So that tells me that there are folks in Oakland County who are willing to listen to a Republican message and are receptive to a Republican message. If the right messenger is there, and if they have the right policy proposals and right platform on which they're running. So Oakland County remains competitive. It wasn't in 2022 in the governor's race. Gretchen Whitmer carried Oakland County by 145,000 votes. And back to your sort of original question, Republicans can't be competitive statewide if they lose Oakland County by 145,000 votes. So Republicans are going to they have some work to do, but it's not like it is a mountain that is, where the summit can't be reached.
And that's what makes this such an interesting case study, is because we know Wayne County is historically a very blue county, as the most populous county in the state, with, of course, the city of Detroit being in Wayne County proper. And then Oakland County was always kind of that counterpoint for the Republicans, where if you could pick up Oakland County and you could pick up some of the more moderately sized counties throughout the state, you're going to be at least competitive on the state level. So looking into that case study, from what you've been able to look at in the last several elections, from your discussions with students on these sorts of topics, where did that transition really begin from this being so staunchly Republican to being more of a purple area of Michigan?
Yeah, I think it really does start with the demographic shift that we've seen over the last 20 years or so, right? From the southern tier of Oakland County has become more Democratic, and I think that's really because of the diversity that has come into the county from other parts of the region, right? You look at places like Royal Oak and Ferndale and Oak Park, right? Those are places where that shift is at its It may be at its greatest. But again, you go up to the northern part of Oakland County, and it's still pretty similar to what it was 20 years ago. Maybe a little bit of shift, but certainly much less than we've seen in other regions of the county. And I would just add too, right? You're right to mention Wayne County as sort of a counter to the traditional Oakland County landscape. But what's also really fascinating is that Macomb County has seen a similar shift, but in the opposite direction of Oakland County, right? Macomb County used to be reliably Democratic, and it's not now anymore. All the county-wide offices in Macomb County are held by Republicans, ironically, except the sheriff, right? Which is just the mirror image of what it is here in Oakland County. So Southeast Michigan, fascinating area politically in terms of how things have shifted. The political cultures of, frankly, those three areas, Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne, vastly different, right? So and you know, back to another point too for folks is that if you take Oakland, Macomb, Wayne, and Washtenaw counties, you have almost 50% of the statewide vote that gets cast in a statewide election. So this is Southeast Michigan is the population center. That means votes. That means a large number of members from the in the state house and state senate, right, where this is a concentration of a number of members. And of course, when those bodies get involved, it's Oakland County with its large number of representatives having a really big and important effect on statewide policymaking.
And that's what makes this so interesting to be looking at historically and to be analyzing right now is because, as you said, nearly 50% of the state among these several counties here in southeastern Michigan, with the Electoral College for Michigan being all or nothing for with those statewide votes, governor, state secretary of state, attorney general, and so on being all or nothing from popular vote. That of course has a major impact, these four counties, and informs so much of what else goes on across Michigan in our politics. Dave, continuing on, we've had a number of major weather incidents, particularly in southeastern Michigan, but really across the state of late. Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people in both of these instances being knocked out of power. And it's once again put these utilities, particularly DTE Energy, under a microscope. There was a really interesting article earlier on this week from Bridge, Michigan. You did a great job of analyzing another key topic in politics, not just in the state of Michigan, but countrywide for a number of years. The money that is in politics, by her research, 70% of Michigan's lawmakers have had PAC donations from utilities like DTE and Consumers Energy, and so as really these last few decades have gone on, and we've seen legislation at the federal level impact campaign finance, how has that opened the door to more of these questions of conflict of interest arising with individual lawmakers and lawmakers in general, given that so much of what they're doing to check some of these companies that are in powerful positions like utilities, while they're also providing so much to these campaigns? And it is what it is in politics. These politicians are working as much for our communities as they are to get reelected.
Well, I'm not sure there's anything new here, right? Yeah. I mean, this is a story that's been around for decades and decades. It's where a great deal of hand-wringing and gnashing of teeth happens in terms of a lot of Americans look at the system of campaign finance and the ability of different entities to make contributions to candidates for office as they look at it as corrupt, right? But I would say this, right? Let's think about the congressional level, and maybe that's not the most appropriate one, but let's use that as an example. So political action committees, PACs, can provide a direct contribution to a candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, $5,000. That's it. That's what they can give. And there are other ways that they can get involved. But in terms of writing a check and saying, here, we hope you win your election, it's $5,000. That is a drop in the bucket compared to what a successful candidate for the House of Representatives needs to raise, which these days is at least $1 million. Right. So that is just a minuscule amount that a PAC can contribute. The other thing I would say is that, when it comes to and I'm certainly not going to make excuses for DTE and their, let's just say, slow response to get everybody back with power over the last couple of weeks and the couple of storms. But, it's not like elected officials look at DTE and say, hey, look, we're going to take your PAC money, and we hope that you slowly respond to power outages, right? That's not how that goes. I mean, now we could talk about different maybe regulatory components of this, but I think this is a little different than somebody who might look at say an environmental question or a gun control question and wonder about where allegiances lie. I find it hard to believe that elected officials at the national or statewide level here in Michigan would want to see slow responses. And I think you've seen their reaction to that over the last couple of weeks is, hey, look, we got to figure out what the heck is happening here and why it takes so long.
Yeah, even Attorney General Dana Nessel this week saying that her office is also looking into what is going on with these utilities, why the response has been so slow. And then on top of that, especially because they are looking to raise their rates by 13.9%. and again, it always seems to be right around the times when these events happen that comes back out again, and they look for changing their rates.
Well, and that's another thing, right? That's just a kicking somebody when they're down. Right. I mean, and maybe that's something that the state government and heck, even the federal government should look at in terms of rate increases and what's appropriate and what's not. I know that there's a board that oversees that and it's got to get approval. But if there was good service all around, maybe folks would be more able to stomach a 13% rate increase, but not when we see hundreds of thousands of people without power. And that's DTE can't do anything about an ice storm or a snowstorm, but when you get estimates of it's going to be 6 days until you get your power back, you sort of go, what the heck am I paying this rate increase for?
Yeah, Michigan Public Service Commission would have to be official. 13.9% is what DTE is currently seeking in their rate hikes for all of their customers. We're joined by Dave Dulio on today's edition of the Megacast. He's also the director for the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Got a big office hours coming up actually tomorrow, which features the president of Oakland University, Dr. Hirsch-Pescovitz. Tell us about that, as this is really covering an important topic that we've seen, unfortunately, even recently, come to blows here in Michigan, and that's anti-Semitism.
Yeah, it's an office hours session that, as you know, Tyler, we try to take on important topics and timely topics. And unfortunately, the issue of rising anti-Semitism is in the news again. We've seen this over the last couple of years that incidents and examples of anti-Semitic threats and behavior has been on the rise. And just last week, right here in Michigan, where a guy used Twitter to make threats against anybody in the Michigan government who is of the Jewish faith. So what we're going to do is get two folks who know a lot about this. And I should also say, too, it's not just in the general public. Incidents of anti-Semitism have risen dramatically on college campuses. So we're going to bring together two folks who know a lot about this. President Pescovitz from the perspective of a university president and where higher ed fits into confronting anti-Semitism. We've also got a professor of history, Dr. Derek Hastings, who studies Nazi Germany, the Holocaust. He's got a wealth of information and knowledge about this issue to share. And we're going to talk about, why we've seen the rise, how anti-Semitism has changed over time, what we might be able to do about it moving forward, how we can combat it. And it's going to be a fascinating discussion from 12 to 1 tomorrow. It's so folks can watch the Megacast and then tune in a little bit later and check us out. You can come in person if you want to the Oakland Center on OU's campus, or join virtually via Zoom. All the information is at a link at the bottom of our webpage at oakland.edu/CCE.
Yep, as he said, oakland.edu/CCE. You can also find a flyer on their Facebook page, facebook.com/OUCCE. Dave, thanks as always for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
When there's something going on in Michigan politics, we go to Dave Dulio Wednesdays on the Megacast from Oakland University. That is going to do it for today's edition of the program. You can always keep up to date with us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Find us on demand, full episodes and individual segments as well, and learn more about all of our partnering stations and the great programming they're doing to explore what's going on in your community right here in Oakland County. Big thank you to each of our guests for joining us today, as well as our crew at the studios of My Michigan TV and right here at our flagship Civic Center TV as well. That's our show for today. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.